The right hand there in front of our desk here. Samoa Joe and for a T-bone here. Hook. Look at wait. Watch out here. Samoa Joe just spiked Hook on our announce desk with an Uranagi, and the announce desk has just shattered under Hook's weight.
Super kicks, you may be asking yourself, why the flippity flip did you name this video Wind Sprints and Fighting Spirits? That's very vague and it's a little... I hope to accomplish two things with this video. I want to, one, take a look back at one of my favorite AEW TV matches from January, that being Samoa Joe versus Hook for the AEW World's Championship. And two, I wanted to use this match to clear up some common misconceptions that wrestling fans have about the circumstances surrounding what elements can make a wrestling match really good. It just so happens that these circumstances happen to relate to both Wind Sprints and Fighting Spirit, thus the title of this video. I think out of the two terms, Fighting Spirit is likely more recognizable amongst wrestling fans, and thus it's probably easier to explain. So to get what's probably the more confusing term out of the way first, let me tell you guys exactly what I mean by
The champ is here!
9 minutes. That was around all the time it took for Samoa Joe and Hook to do battle in the main event of the January 17th edition of AEW Dynamite. I couldn't find the exact length of the match posted anywhere, and I'm too lazy to go and do the simple math that it would take to find out how long it actually was, but that's besides the point. The point being, this match, especially for an AEW title match, it's short. It's a wind sprint of a match, and because of that, the match actually benefits greatly. The first of those briefly mentioned misconceptions that I was talking about is the belief that good, and I mean really good, wrestling matches have to be long. And I'm sure if you look at a list of the best modern wrestling matches within the past, let's say, decade or so, 9 minutes is probably below the minimum match length of any of the matches on that list. When people think of 5-star classics, they might immediately think of time limit draws or Iron Man matches or really any high-profile match that lasts between 15 and 60 minutes. Of course, that's not to say that the longer a match is, the better it is by default. I mean, just take a look at Edge versus Randy Orton from that one pandemic WrestleMania, for example, and you'll see that a match going on for too long may result in the finale of your blood feud coming off more like an awkward encounter between two elderly men with Alzheimer's who escaped their nursing homes and are aimlessly wandering around the WWE Performance Center for some reason. Now, I'm not saying that Samoa Joe vs. Hook was a 5-star classic, but I will stand by the fact that it was a really good wrestling match. And that is because good wrestling matches do not have to be long. Within the context of the story that they're trying to tell here, it's completely understandable that 9 minutes is all that it takes for the savvy and violent veteran Samoa Joe to completely wreak havoc onto Hook, the young upstart who possesses perhaps just a little too much confidence given the scale of this match compared to literally every other match that he's had thus far in his youthful career. During those 9 minutes, it makes perfect sense for Hook to get absolutely demolished by Samoan Joseph, ragdolled in the ring and punished on the outside with sickening powerbombs and yes, that Uranage through the announce table. In mere minutes, Hook is beaten like a child in the 60s who disobeyed his father, which is wild considering the fact that Hook's actual father was sitting at the announce table that Joe just broke him in half over. But through punishment and embarrassment, and even more punishment, Hook continues to fight. But why? Why is he doing this? If you asked all 8 billion people on this earth if they would like to continue fighting some big Samoan dude after he just dislocated their spine on the hardest part of the ring trademark, chances are that 7,999,999,999 of them would reasonably and politely tell you, I don't want to keep getting battered by this large, sweaty, meaty Samoan man. But on this night, Hook is the 1 in 8 billion. Hook is the one, and he just won't quit. And you can attribute that to his undying self-confidence, or his pure desire to want to beat Joe on this very night more than anything else in the world. But at the end of the day, I believe Hook's resilience can be chalked up to a little thing that we like to call Earlier I mentioned that most wrestling fans will likely already have an idea as to what fighting spirit is, but for those who don't know, please direct your attention to this quote from one of my favorite wrestling YouTubers and someone who understands the fundamentals of wrestling way more than I probably ever will, Joseph Montecillo, who in the first episode of his Walking the King's Road series, which you should go check out, defines fighting spirit as the act of continuing in the battle, even in the face of certain defeat. Yes, fighting spirit is Clint Eastwood in A Fistful of Dollars continuing to fight against the Rojos even after getting jumped and trapped by them. Fighting spirit is Rengoku continuing to fight Akaza even after getting a hole punched through his stomach. Fighting spirit is Rocky rising to the 10 count in round 14 of his match against Apollo Creed. And here fighting spirit is Hook, pushing away medical assistants in order to make it back into the ring by the 10 count, fully knowing that he is going to be on the receiving end of even more of Joe's unrelenting offensive attacks. Similarly to match length, there are many misconceptions revolving around the idea of fighting spirit within the context of pro wrestling. Most of these misconceptions come when wrestling fans are tasked with defining what is and what isn't considered as fighting spirit. Joseph touches on these misconceptions in his videos too, and he talks about how actions commonly associated with fighting spirit aren't necessarily considered fighting spirit itself, as they're more just tools that a performer can use to portray the idea of fighting spirit. This is why when Hook kicks out of a muscle buster at 1 after absorbing all the punishment that he has thus far, it receives a huge reaction from the crowd and in my opinion is considered fighting spirit. It's also the reason why when Seth Rollins kicks out at 1 in the middle of a fairly evenly matched bout against Finn Balor, it gets little to no reaction at all and is considered stinky doo-doo dog shit. So it's fighting spirit that forces Hook to rise from the rubble of Joe's path of destruction. Fighting spirit allows Hook to shine just like the signal that appears in the sky that summons him during his entrances, I guess. Hook's iron will acts as a beacon of hope for the fans, and he finally begins to lay in offense of his own for just long enough to make it seem that him actually defeating Joe is even a slightly possible outcome. Hook's shine here legitimately had me pumping my fists in the air when each clothesline that he threw connected with Joe and knocked him off his feet. Of course, reality sets back in once Joe cinches in his signature coquina clutch. But even then, Hook stays in the hold for like half a minute before finally fading to the Samoan submission machine. Is it a perfect match? No, of course not, but truthfully, I don't think it has to be. It was a great first title defense that made Joe out to be the monster that he is, and Hook seemed like he actually belonged in a big world title match, even if it was only 9 minutes long. Also, just a reminder, Hook is still in his early 20s. He's been wrestling for like 2 years. Is that not crazy? I feel like that's kind of crazy. Hook and Joe both have very exciting things to look forward to in 2024, and I'm sure this won't be the last time the two meet in singles competition. But no matter how their futures play out, let it be known that in their first singles encounter here, they put together a really good professional wrestling match, and they did it with a little help from wind sprints and fight. Hey guys, it's me. I'm here to do a quick outro. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment about literally anything except Jinder Mahal. Why were there so many people comparing Hook to Jinder Mahal? We're better than this. Like, really? Jinder? Mahal? Okay, that's the outro.
Deuces! Ooses!